well, when I got to above 30s, I finally had the money to buy these plastic figures that cost a fortune. so that was the way in finally. And I wanted to play dwarves. That has been always my jam in all like Dungeons and Dragons and all that. But in 40k there are no dwarves, so what's the opposite of a dwarf? Well, it's orcs. So I started to collect orcs. I don't think that was the best call as a starter, because I feel that's one of the armies with Space Marines that you will never have a full collection, because there are just way too many models. But yeah, I started at the end of 8th edition. I never had 2,000 points during the 8th, and during 9th I finally got the 2,000 points, and so 2024 was the first year I competed full year. Before that, I played like two head tournaments where it's like 2 versus 2 and one singles tournament.
Oh wow!
And now like this is my second year running like fully on tournaments, and we started also running a Finnish podcast for competitive 40k with my friend Yu. So it's called. Viikkokatsaus of 40k, which is like weekly checkup of 40k situation, more or less from in Finnish. So like I said, old man needs a hobby.
Absolutely, and I think it's been, I'm new into this hobby, started last year, and I think there's a lot of people who either came back or who got into the hobby these last couple of years, and they've been fantastic time around the world, and especially here in the Nordics for Warhammer 40k. Very eager to talk more and dig into the Finnish scene, but let's jump over to Arne and Team Germany, if we could say. You've been playing a bit longer. How did you get into Warhammer, and what are you doing for a living?
So, I mean, I'm a programmer for a living, so that's kind of very much unrelated to that. But actually, like, I've had contact with like 40k as like as a hobby and a game for like forever, because like someone got me into it and like back in 5th grade of school. But, I never actually played competitive 40k. It was like, I have 10 Space Marines and this guy has like a Necron thing. And back in like 2019, I actually, I happened upon Tabletop Simulator. And that kind of made the difference for me, going from like 40k is this game that in theory is a strategy game, but in practice I play all the plastic models I own and I hope they have good rules currently. And I try to slap every equipment on to maybe fill out 1,000 points because I don't have that many models, to going to like there's like, list building strategy. I have access to every model I could ever want. Let's go. And like actually engage with it as a strategy game rather than just as like this hobby. And that kind of played a ton online during the COVID years. And then that transitioned back into once COVID ended, actually going to real life events again, and like now I somehow own multiple, a few 1,000 point armies, but also I've now built up like enough connections in a community that I can basically pretend I'm playing online and just go, I need 2,000 points of Ynnari for Denmark. Anyone got them? Yeah, cool, thanks. So when we went to Denmark, I didn't play a single model of my own. So now it's like, that's kind of what made that transition for me. Like, I struggled with the game as a hobby, but turning it into like this pure strategy game where you have everything unlocked and everything accessible, and it's no longer so pay to win, made it like really click for me. And since then, I've been grinding. I don't know. I went to WTC as a mercenary in 2022.
Oh, wow.
For Belgium.
Belgium? Oh, really?
Yes. That was the Belgium United team with like Gringo, and we had a lot of people from various countries. We had Doug as well that year.
Doug Samuelsson from Sweden.
Yes, exactly. I met him in Denmark last weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he played for Xenophilia. And now since like 2023, I've been, with the home team, and playing for Team Germany. And yeah, it's been good. I started to transition mostly to Team 40K. I haven't really played a singles event this year yet. So yeah.
Amazing. So we have, I wouldn't call veterans. We have someone like somewhat of a new age of Warhammer 40K in the competitive scene. And Joel Larsson, please introduce yourself and talk a little bit about how you got into Warhammer 40K, as you used to be a very prominent Magic the Gathering player.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started like 2.5 years ago, give or take. I had a few friends of mine who started playing 40K. I used to play Warhammer Fantasy as a kid, like pretty much every millennial has ever done. And I think I was playing like vampire counts. I think I played like 1 or 2 matches as GW or something. Had a lot of fun. I've always kind of like loved the universe. I always catered more towards the fantasy side of it, kind of like the aesthetics better, etc. But my 2 friends started in 40K, and I had stopped playing Magic the Gathering full time, and I was, had a full time job, and I had money, and I didn't know if I had the time. And I remember that I started watching like, I don't know, 50 hours of YouTube videos of like the different armies and the lore and like what everything did. And I watched some metagame stuff as well, but I tried to decide not too much on that part. And in the end, I made the decision to start. So I bought like Trajan and Custodes Codex in 9th, kind of like at the end of 9th. And I was hoping and planning on playing it on like a kind of hobby kind of level with my friends. And I don't know. I don't think I have it in me to do that. It's just fucking impossible. Like, so it took like 2 or 3 months, and then I started playing. I went solo to my first tournament, which was a Grimdark, by the way. So the recurring thing. I played my first tournament there. I think I went like 2-1-2 or something.
Wow.
And I met a bunch of friends and got like kind of into the community and started hanging out a bunch with them. And then I was, like I am with every project I think is fun in gaming, I kind of go all in. So it's been very much all in since then. So now I have like, I don't know, 4,000 points of Custodes and like 3,500 of Tyranids and like 4,000 points of Demons painted, and like, it's gonna be my second WTC this year. And yeah, it's been kind of wild since, and I'm spending like, I don't know, an unreasonable amount of unpaid time in this game because I kind of love it, and I love the people in it too. And I think I've always like kind of catered towards in real life games. I've always been a gamer of many games, but and played a bunch of them on the highest level. But the ones that really stuck with me is the ones where you go to places and meet people. I think that's just so different for me. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. And now I'm neck deep, man. This is it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like all 3 of you have somewhat of a similar story, being, coming into this hobby and then suddenly just it's a switch and then going all in and dedicating a big part of your life into it. And I think that's just a charm with it. And like you said, Joel, I think that what made it for me is for sure this IRL and community part, that you really make good friends and it's just so much fun. And there is some crazy part that Games Workshop has done with these minis that you just get attached to them and you just want more and more. You gotta catch them all in some type of way.
Yeah.
It's
and
crazy.
I'm not sure you get the full grasp of how all I'm talking about. I think I've read like 31 books at this point or something about the lore. Like it's crazy, man. It's a very big universe. Sorry to cut you off.
No worries.
But I think it's also part of the hobby, which beyond the community and the gaming, is that it's a hobby part, it's a lore part, it's the visuals, it's the beautiful miniatures. Like I'm currently like creating an Astra army because we kind of missed it last year WTC, but I wanted to make it fun because I hate the aesthetics. So now it's like Skaven Astra Militarum, and so I'm building all my time on that. So yeah, it's a very cool hobby for sure.
I guess we can all agree that fingers crossed Henry can cook something beautiful with the series.
Yeah, for sure.
100%. Arne, are you also into you said a bit of it, but are you also reading a lot of the books and the lore and so on, or how invested are you into everything 40k?
I gotta say, I spend an absurd amount of time on 40k every week, and none of it is related to the hobby and the lore. I don't even find time to paint because we have a YouTube channel with Breaking Heads. I do coaching. I'm on the national team. We have, local teams and so on that I'm involved in. I end up just like if I just look at my calendar, it's like, okay, I got work and then coaching, and then there's a team meeting, and then I got work, and then there's like a team meeting with a different team, and then there's something for the national team, and then I still got to practice. So for me, it's a very like, the thing I love the most about 40k is probably talking about 40k with other people who like are into the rules and the shenanigans that you can do with them. And I think I just mostly spend so much time talking about and thinking about 40k. But I'm actually a really like lazy painter, and like not a good painter either. Necessarily, but it's not that I'm actually just bad at it. I'm just really lazy at it and bad about ever actually painting anything. So yeah, that's kind of the hobby is kind of like it's a thing. It exists. I enjoy some of the lore, but it's very tangential to the thing I most love about 40k, which is just like, I just want to geek out about the rules and what we can potentially do with them next week at a tournament. And so I'm coming directly from a meeting with my team for the next team event in April, where we were discussing team comp and what to do about orcs and who to potentially put up as attackers into orcs on these maps we're going to have for that next team tournament. And that's kind of the level of like the part of 40k that I engage with the most.
Amazing. It's a perfect transition, I think, also starting to talk about Niklas and your venture here in the biggest Finnish single tournament that you were able to win. And as you said before, you picked up your orc army. You did play orc in this one, but you didn't play Daka Daka. Can you tell us a little bit of your story into this tournament, and a bit on, were you not allowed because that was a new meta slate that just came out here a couple of days ago, or tell me all about it.
Yeah, so the rules cutoff was 1 week before, so the new data slate wasn't allowed in our tournament. Regarding Arne, I'm the slowest painter in the world. You can check my Instagram what I'm painting, and I have orcs. That's terrible combination.
It's a lot of details, we can say.
Yeah, but regarding the tournament, so it was a meta call because the user that I do the podcast with, I was like brainstorming a bit that I think the Green Tide could actually be really good for the meta that we are playing in Finland at the moment. That there's a lot of players playing these 3-wound, 4-wound idiots like Possessed and Chosen, Custodes, etc., etc. And the other one was, of course, a lot of people are going to run the new Eldari book. So there's going to be a lot of like easy to kill elves onto meta. So I was like, normally that I would want to run the Warhorde or the unnerfed tactical brigade, but I was like, against like elves, Green Tide is as good as any other orc. So it doesn't. I think it's even better than tactical because you don't shoot; you just go and punch them into the face and hold the objectives. But regarding the other ones, I was like, everyone is gearing up to kill these 3-wound, 4-wound idiots or tanks Like no one will have enough shots to kill me if I run Green Tide. And I started to practice with the army. I played, let me think fast, 7 practice games. And highest score for my opponent was 45 points in those games. And I'm like, I'm getting 20 O's almost every single game. There was 115-5. But every other game was 20-0 in WTC score. I'm like, can this be this good? Like, I was starting to question myself, like, can this actually be this good? Like, am I getting false information? Like, are my opponents bad? Like, what is going on here? And I'm like, which one detachment I will take? And then I'm like, if I don't take this and I play the tournament and I don't win it, I will feel bad because the practice scores were so good. And I was like, okay, let's go for it. Like, I'm going to take the Green Tide and see how it goes. And well, it was the same story more or less. I think my lowest win was 15-5 or 14-6 in the tournament, and I had couple 20-0s and one 18-2, 19-1, something like that. So it was just keeping the same pace more or less than in the practice games. So yeah, the meta call was correct. It was right for the meta, at least at the last week's meta before the Mordaka. And yeah, I got the golden ticket, and yeah, please.
Amazing. Yeah, and we showed here on screen a bit of your list, and also seeing here your great performance. It was Aldari who came also undefeated in this tournament, but had less points than you.
I had actually more, like 78, I think, more battle points than the Eldari. So it was like I always had one more game worth of points than the second place.
Yeah.
Joni is actually the WTC captain for this year for the Finnish team. So congrats for him as well. He also got the golden ticket from the second place because we had 2 tickets for both 5-0s. But yeah, I don't want to take the compliment for the list. It's actually Noah Beddome's list, the same list he run in LVO and Midwinter's something tournament where he won that and went 5 or 6-1 in LVO, something like that with the list. So it's his list. I just played it a bit differently because they play GW terrain and we played WTC terrain. So I had my characters a bit differently and deployed the army a bit differently. But yeah, same list.
Yeah, the Green Tide, as far as I know, as you said, has been pretty strong in North America. You said coming into this tournament that you thought that orcs could do really well. Can you just talk a little bit about this tournament also itself before we kind of break it down? Is this the biggest Finnish tournament on the year when it comes to singles? You said it was 2 golden tickets, which of course is very attractive at this point.
Yeah, we actually had players coming in from Baltia as well, from Latvia, Estonia, to try to get the tickets. So yeah, it's the first time people are traveling to Finland to try to catch the tickets. So it is definitely the biggest tournament, at least so far. I know the TOs have a plan that they want to get the 100 broken as soon as possible. So maybe this year there is going to be a bigger tournament, or maybe it's going to be next year. But at least as it stands, it was the biggest tournament in 10 years for singles in Finland. So yeah.
That's amazing to hear how it's growing everywhere, and the Finnish scene for sure seems to be on a really strong path forward. With this tournament, of course, singles is typically more normal. Do you like singles or teams more? Like, is it something that you like more? Like, now you won the singles, so maybe that is your favorite currently.
So yeah, I talked this a bit with Arne in the pre-show. But because I'm old esports player, so I was IGL in the games that I played. So my mindset is always try to find the way to win the game, no matter what it takes. If it's a 1% chance, I'm gonna take it. So that doesn't really work well in the teams format. So I did play in the WTC team last year for Finland and also in the Nordic Masters. But I didn't play the role where that's sustainable play style, I could say. So at least my play style in the role that I played isn't a working pair. So this year I told the team that I'm not gonna chase for the spot in the team. I knew we will have 2 great guys in the like high scoring roles in the team, or who are going to chase for the high scores. And I'm going to focus fully this year for the singles. And of course, regarding that, the first step is to try to secure the golden ticket. I got it in the second attempt. Mm-hmm. We already had one ticket in January, and now it's like I was like a pressure free. Now I can just chill, practice for the November. So I have 8 months to think about what I want to play at the end of the year.
Fantastic. And in this tournament, was it someone who you faced, or was it someone in this tournament that you would rate being even normally better than you, or that you were happy to defeat? Like, is there someone in the Finnish scene outside of yourself that is good to have our eyes on in the future?
I think all the WTC team members are really good to follow. In the top 8, actually, you have it open. I can check it from here. Just a quick. So Joni is the captain. Like I said, Juha Ottalin is part of the team. Eero is part of the team. Then we have Tatu, who's at least in the ring. Indy is part of the team. Heikki is part of the team. Pekka used to be part of the team. So most of the guys in the top 10, at least, except Tom Wikholm, have been part of the WTC team currently or in the past. So yeah, but like when I drove home on Saturday, the tournament was in Helsinki. I live in Lahti. It's 1 hour drive. So I had my friend with me, and I told him in the car when the pairings came that, or even before the pairings came, that in the 4th round, I don't want to play Alexi. Mm-hmm. And of course, that's the one opponent that I will get in the 4th round.
Wow.
But my mindset was that from the 8 people that were there, the Alexi is a good player. And he's playing the Krotmas Tau detachment, whatever it's auxiliary cutter or something like that. And I'm like, I have never played against that. I have no idea what that detachment will do. So playing against good player when I have played against him with Green Tide before, so he knows my stuff. I have no idea about his stuff. So I'm like, everything else is fine because I know all the other opponents, but this one detachment, I don't want to play against it. And I'm good. Of course, 4th game is against him. And I in the morning when we drove to the tournament, I'm like, this is my final game. Like in the final, whoever is going to be in the final, I'm going to win that game. But this game is my final game. And of course, in the evening, I checked the rules, and when I read the rules, I'm like, okay, I think I have a shot when I just block the infiltrate, the scout moves with my commandos, push him back so that I have room to get to the objectives, control the primary game. I will have a chance against this. And if I kill his Groot and the Vespid stuff, he doesn't have the secondary scoring units. And then I can just like control the game from that. And that more or less happened when he whiffed his 2nd round shooting almost completely. So it was pretty GG from that point onwards. And in the final, it was the top 4 was 2 Eldari, 2 Orcs, and I'm like, I have Green Tide. Like, just whoever comes against me, I'm gonna win that game because amazing. Like, and of course everyone was like joking about me that hey, you were saying that you will never lose against Orcs in Finnish team because no one has played more Orcs in 10th edition than I have. And I got the mirror match, and I'm like, I'm not gonna lose this game. Like, no matter what, I'm gonna win this game, but. There was one point in the final game when in the 2nd round he drew the Call the Horde and overwhelming whatever it's called.
Yeah,
kill from the objectives. And then he was, and I'm like, oh shit! Like I have 2 boy plops in the range for him to kill, and of course he kills both instantly. I was like the other one had a pain boy, and he's punching me with 20 boys with warboss and a big mech. I'm like, that maybe survives, but he killed both. I'm like, 10 points different from 1 card. Oh my god! But then I was able to stabilize from my when I ward, and I just shot him to pieces and killed almost everything else except Gaskell, Battle Wagon, and some trucks. So I stabilized and won the finals as well. So.
Amazing. You scored 100 points in your fourth round there, and then 99 in your last one. So that's a way of going out in success. And Niklas, you did say your tournament did play on WTC terrain, correct?
Yes. And we didn't, because of the rules cutoff, we also used the 2024 map pack, not the 2025 map pack.
Gotcha. Oh, really, really cool, and for sure to see the orcs green tide. I thought actually that orcs were super popular in Finland. Somehow, I think with the Finnish culture and orcs, it's like that you like them, but you say it's not so many orcs in your meta right now.
There are some. So Joni plays orcs as well, but he has like so many armies that he just usually chases whichever is the best at the time. So when Tactical Brigade came out, he played that. And then last year's captain, Dogo, also has orcs. But in this tournament, he played Death Guard, and Joni played Unari. Mm-hmm. And then Juuso Kankkunen, of course, I faced him in the final. He played orc. And then there are like 2 other people who sometimes run orc. So it's like in the tournament scene, it's like 6 players playing orc. And I have been playing almost all the time orc. I think 3 or 4 tournaments of Custodes, so that's why I said that no one has played more orcs in the tournaments that I have in Finland. So
yeah, and
I should have the edge for that matchup in the mirror.
I'm just baffled that we can talk this much orcs even before this data slate, because of course in the Warhammer 40k, can we say, world, everyone is just talking orcs, but you even show it with the green tide. So if a nerf happens, maybe Niklas will not be the one who's crying too much. Let's move it over to
one thing regarding that. My only wish is that for the crimes of Mordecai, they are not going to hammer all the shooting units.
Yeah.
But they handle the detachment, and they keep the other stuff playable for Dread Mob and the other detachments. Because it's so GW style that they just hammer all the shooting units, and then it's like, well, now we are back to Warhorde, and that would suck. So hopefully they do the according thing and handle the detachment, not the units.
Yeah, I'm not so... I shouldn't speak about the meta, but I think there is a danger that it might nerf the units. It seems like that's being a theme. Okay, so let's move over to Denmark, or even more specific to Germany, Arne. How did you approach this tournament? And that was the Grand Tournament Denmark. I think it maybe was the first of its version, and I think it was maybe the biggest tournament in Denmark. So how did you come into this tournament? Why did you go there? And then let me hear a little about your thinking in it.
Okay, so this is kind of funny. We have this group internally that we call the Reisegruppe, which is basically it's the German word for a group of tourists, and we basically like when there's random tournaments in places, generally like in Poland or somewhere. The 5 of us sometimes end up just like, oh yeah, sounds great. Let's just attend a random team tournament in Poland. Oh, nice. Take some nice trophies home. So we're kind of playing with that meme of like being the the silly tourists going to other countries and taking the fancy stuff home with us. And yeah, I don't know. It's so we randomly had like, I don't know who brought it up, probably Malte, because he's usually the one who organizes the tickets and stuff. So
and he's
Malte
also the
like,
WTC team captain, right?
Yes, he is. So Malte was like, hey, there's a tournament in Denmark that we could go to, and we were all like, sure, sounds great, let's just do that. So yeah, really not much thought went into it. We just kind of checked, yeah, we have time that weekend, let's go. Because we all just love team tournaments way too much. So yeah, and then it's not the exact same 5-man constellation as every Reisegruppe team before, but it kind of rotates around this like core of 4 or 5 people, plus whoever's available at the time. And each of us just went with whatever army was like cool at the time. Like Malte just got his new like Thunder Warriors converted Custodes finished, and he was like, I want to run my wardens. And I was like, cool, you run your wardens. Ynnari is new and hot, so I played Ynnari. Pau played Slanesh because it's awesome and really, really broken, or was really, really broken. And Max just ran Wolf Jail because Wolf Jail is fun. And then Marv, well, Bridgehead doesn't really need to be explained in a team tournament. So yeah, that was the comp. I would say that like a lot of planning went into it, but we really just like looked at the maps and went, hey, looks like we're playing Hammer and Anvil like 4 times. Let's play Jail. And then we went 15 Warden Jail, 18 Fiend Jail, apparently Eldar Jail. I don't know, that worked, even though it shouldn't. And yeah, Wolf Jail.
So what terrain and what type of setting was it for this tournament, you said?
Yes, so we were playing WTC terrain, obviously 2024 map pack still, because the 2025 one wasn't publicly released yet at the time of like list submission and so on. We played 1 round of what's it called, Crucible on the first day, and then 2 rounds of Hammer, 2 rounds of Tipping Point. And while an argument can be made that Tipping Point is a lot like Search and Destroy, it's also, if you look a little bit at it diagonally, it's very much like Hammer and Anvil. So it kind of went like, oh, if we just plan for this being 4 rounds of Hammer and Anvil and we just go smoosh with 4 armies that can do that really well, that'll probably work. And yeah, seemed to have worked.
Yeah, it seemed to have gone really well for you guys. Looking also a bit maybe into actually your list, you played Aldari this one, as you said. I think that at WTC you played Tisan, at the World Championship in Atlanta you played Astra, right? And this time it was Eldari.
No, Eldari.
Oh, it was Eldari. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so, well, okay.
It was Pyra you played Astra, right?
Yes, Pyra Cup I played Astra.
Yeah,
but that was just because like no real Astra player was available for our team. So I'm generally like the flexible guy on the team. So I tend to, you could say I meta chase a lot, but because I play in team tournaments rather than singles, I don't meta chase. I just play whatever the team needs me to play. There's a difference.
You have a responsibility, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in this case, Ynnari is what the team needed me to play. I stole the list from the French, from Pyra Cup, looked at it and went, I don't like Dark Reapers and I don't want to waste time rolling Tempest Launchers, and chucked the Dark Reapers for just like 5 more Banshees and 2 more Warlocks. And that's it. That's how I arrived at this list. And yeah.
And it went pretty good.
It did work, yeah. I somehow won 5 games. I should not have. I got terrible pairings, like intentionally so, right? Because Ynnari can kind of play whatever, and I can always scrap out draw a win. But like, I played Death Guard on Purge of the Foe. I played Chaos Knights twice. I played against Stormlands with 15 Deathwing Knights that my army literally has no way of killing. And I only had 1 round where I actually could conceivably kill my opponent. That one I got 19 points in. So yeah, that was kind of the story of that tournament for me.
Yeah,
a bunch of rounds
I'm not so much into the meta, but it felt like you got kind of hard matching. I thought that Chaos Knights was not that convenient for Eldari, so you really had to fight on the table, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of got and as it often is in teams, right? Like someone's gonna get the short end of the stick in pairings, and someone else is gonna get the responsibility to farm a bunch of points. And I ended up getting the sort of short end of pairings kind of 2 or 3 times. And it worked somehow. I ended up basically playing, hi, these are elf bodies, they can move block for 4 turns. And I think 3 of my opponents had like, so my Space Marine opponent lost in that entire game 1 Ballistic Dreadnought, 1 Tech Marine, 4 Deathwing Knights from one squad, and like 2 Deathwing Knights from another squad. That's it. I don't
Wow.
think he lost another unit. And that was an 11-9 because he couldn't leave his DZ for 4 turns.
So you played the Point Hammer, not the Warhammer.
Yeah, I definitely had to play Point Hammer. But Ynnari are good at playing Point Hammer, so I did that. I had one game that was really fun because in theory what this army that I played is supposed to do is be really good into shooting, because if you trigger lethal intent, that's kind of your problem. And then also punish melee armies by having 4 fights first units. With just like 20 Banshees and the big Incubi brick with fights first. So that was kind of the thought behind it. And I got one game where I really got to do that, where I just could like, okay, here's my screen left, screen right, screen middle, fights first heroic behind each of them, everything set up, and that was really fun. But most games it was like, yeah, I could heroic with Banshees into your Deathwing Knights, but we both know how that ends.
Yeah, I can see that. That was probably not. You made the right option, so to speak. Sorry for that. Can I just fix here also? In this tournament, as you said, you guys, the Reise group, traveled in from Germany. I know also there was a strong team from the Netherlands. There were 2 Swedish teams. But how was the feeling on site? Because I guess more than half of the teams, it was 12 teams, were from Denmark. And I do think that some of the Danish teams did really, really strong performance. Like, how did you see this event being as it was in Denmark and the Danish like presence?
Oh, I mean, I think the second strongest team was Tryhard Nordic. They also ended up second. And they actually drew us. So they did like, they played super well. And the highest scoring player in the entire tournament was from their team, played like a version of a list of Skark from Poland with double Accursed Cultist, CSM, with a bunch of tanks behind it. So, you know, Tryhard Nordic were both like amazing sporting opponents and also a really strong team with like a really strong composition. And after we played a draw against them in round 3, we just kind of went like full on into, okay, this is now a race of scoring points because there's no way these guys drop a game to any of the other teams here, at least in our mind. Or, well, we certainly couldn't rely on it. Let's put it that way. So we had to get every single point. And if you look at our placings, it's like round 1, both they got 71 points, we got 75. Round 2, 94, 94. Round 3, we drew 51, 49. You know, round
Tight.
4, 66, 62. So like after 4 rounds, it was just like, we can't build differential. We're both like just perfectly even racing past each other. And then we got that 5th round and got to take a few points home from the Swedish. And I mean, it's not that big a difference either, but at least we got 5 more points than Tryhard Nordic there. And that's kind of what got us the win in the end at the tournament.
Yeah, I think that you were maybe 2 points behind before it. Sorry.
When are you coming to Sweden to collect easy trophies? So to say?
No.
Is there a reason why you haven't been there yet?
No.
We're ready.
I'm happy we managed to beat them at Pyra.
Okay.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, talking about that, you did a fantastic, strong performance. And me, who are not so into competitive 40k yet, I did call that Team Germany looked super strong coming into Pyra. And I think you came second after the French team, right? But you were super strong, showing some fantastic performance. So Team Germany, or the German scene, seems to be really, really strong and deep with so many strong players.
Yeah, there's definitely we have a wealth of options for the team. It's like I don't know. When you were saying earlier, like talk about the meta of each country, I was like, what do I even say about the German meta, right? Like I don't know. There's like 100 people who play amazing 40k that I could mention, and a bunch of teams that are doing super well. So it's really hard to say anything other than it's like very diverse. We kind of have people doing all kinds of things. And I like all the people that are on the roster this year, and I think they all like are doing super well. It's like we have an 8-man roster for like, the team 1, and then an 8-man roster for like the second team, and then we have academy players. And
fantastic.
The group we went to with Reisegruppe is like me from team 1, Malte who's doing coaching, House team 2, Marv is, I think, I'm not sure if he's currently team 1 or 2, and then Max I think is currently academy. So like it's not that it's still a really strong roster, and you couldn't really tell who's like A team and who's B team right now just from looking at those at how people are doing at tournaments. It's like, all the way down to the academy, we've just got so many strong players.
Fantastic to see and to hear. And once again, congrats on this one. And I don't know, Niklas or Joel, any of these Danish players from Tryhards that you guys recognize? I think Marcus Jensen at least was on the WTC team 2024, but I don't know if there was any of these players that you are familiar to, or if Arne had met any one of these guys before.
I mean, I don't even know who's on the team, so you'll have to tell me. I have no idea. I barely knew who was in Arne's team.
If you can check the screen of the broadcast, you probably can see it, but that's also fine. I think that also shows the depth. I mean, the only part I know with Denmark is for sure that their Age of Sigmar is world champions, and that the Danish scene for sure is a very strong Warhammer scene. But maybe I didn't think that they would have a strong team challenging Arne and the Riser group, but it was super close. I think what did we say, Arne? 3 points in difference or something like that?
That sounds correct. Let me check what the final place.
Tryhard Nordic, is that a Danish only team or?
I believe
yes,
so.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes, 3 points in the final placing.
Wow. Yeah, that's tight. All right. Let's move over to you, Joel Larsson, who did become the champion of Grimdark. Had you won that tournament before? It's for sure the longest running Stockholm tournament. I think this was the 24th edition. Tell me all about it and coming into it.
Yeah, okay, so I pretty much did everything that I don't usually do this tournament. I talked previously about which armies I have and the hobbying or whatever, but I'm very much like Arne. I think there's like 2-3 armies in the game that I haven't played at this point, and I try to bring different things to different tournaments. Sometimes there's some practical issues with doing that, especially if you're traveling with a plane. It's sometimes hard to fit 6 big demons or whatever it may be. So there's that. For this tournament in particular, I was planning to going for a long time, and then I got a present from my mother to go and watch a show, Amadeus, on the theater. So I dropped from the tournament, and then the night before, a Warhammer friend of mine, and also the coach for Team Sweden, or the captain even, in some sense, the coach, whatever, told me we had a surprise birthday party for him, and my FOMO was kind of like, it was here somewhere. So I undropped from the tournament, and I had already barred away my demons to Jesper, which is the captain of Team Sweden, is going to play. And so I had to bring something that I had at home. This was, an hour before I had to go to bed the night before. So I brought Custodes. And the problem with playing this tournament was that I did some calculations because I had to be at the theater in time, and it had to I had to leave 70 minutes before the last round was ending. So if you like took both players' time and you deduced 70 minutes from my clock, I would have 27.5 minutes to play my match. So I brought Custodes, and I didn't play the new detachment. I didn't play Lions of the Empire. I played Shield Host because that's what I know. And I think if there's any army that I could play on 27 minutes, it's probably that one. So I brought it, and it went very well. I actually, it's a little bit more. I mean, I guess I had some more preparation. I had played a few matches with Lions, and I've done a lot of math on the like differences with like +1 to wound with Custodes with sustain against things with toughness 8 or more versus like critting on 5s and lethals, and actually like critting on 5s is slightly better. And but then you lose on the shooting part and like splitting the turn. You know, there's a lot of. They're actually very close. So I don't fault anyone for playing Shield Host these days. And so that's what I brought and went to the army and did pretty okay, I guess.
Very okay.
Luckily, in my third round, I played Axel, a friend of mine, and also obviously been on like I don't know 100 WTCs. He's on this team this year as well. And we got to start a bit early. So I actually had 40 minutes on my clock. But I did finish with 13 minutes remaining. So I did play on 27 still.
And you went 19-1 against his Eldaris, right?
Yeah, he was playing Windrider Host. And we played on a table which had a lot of terrain on it. And he got to start. And he went like kind of all in. He had like 2 units coming in from deep strikes on turn 1 and tried to shoot a Warden Squad with Spot Feel and Pain. And it didn't die, obviously, and as they tend not to do. And I don't know, it kind of ended up with kind of simple math of like I was playing a list which had like 15 Wardens and they all had a mid champ, and then I had 2 units that I could ingress. I had like 1 Venator unit and I had 1 just the regular 4-man guard unit, and then I had the Kira squad and sisters, and then like 2 Terminators. And what it came down to pretty much is he has like 5 or 6 squads of Windriders. 2 of his units probably doesn't kill a Warden squad, which is awkward when like a Warden squad can like almost shoot 1 to death and then charge another 1 to death. You need like, I don't know, 1 Custode and a Blade Champ to actually kill a 6-man of Windriders. So it looked like that matchup was kind of awkward. I mean, he also needs a lot of setup to deal the damage. You know, you need War Walker for the extra AP, and then you need to reduce like the ignore cover, whatever. But that's just it. So it went well. Sorry, dragged out on that one. But
no worries. And someone told me typical Eldari. I think Axel had went 20-0, and then he lost 119 because when it falls apart, it truly falls apart. But I think what you're pointing out, Joel, also being, you know, what you said, you played less 2.5 years or something like that, or Warhammer, and getting to know you a bit, I know how meticulous you are, that you like take step by step and testing. I think that coming into Pyra Cup, you started with your Chaos Demons in one end, and then suddenly you ended up with your WTC list, and it turned out being a really strong one that I think no one else had really seen would work at that point. In this tournament,
when Arne talked about Spanish being OP, and I was just sad about Blood Crushers getting a 5-up invul and 3+. I didn't really care about the Spanish bullshit over there. No, but Demons was very good for us, both at WTC and Pyra Cup. I think I did the second best in scoring in Pyra Cup. And I also had the advantage, which Index Demons in that kind of configuration with Core Demons, is that you're like, you don't get any parries. Like, you attack everything and you get whatever table because they're so agnostic when it comes to tables. So
absolutely.
In that regard, they were very good for us. And I was lucky enough to also get a lot of points on that tournament. I think there was only the English team who got more points than I did on Pyra. But yeah.
Absolutely. But I think that my point was that you do so much effort, probably one of the biggest tryhards in Sweden when it comes to extract the most. And in this tournament, you dropped out. You decided you're being out with some of the friends from Team Sweden and others in Warhammer, and then re-signed, and you just, how do I adapt into this one? I got 27 minutes, and you just look in yourself. You don't have your demons that you currently are playing, and just, I bring this Custodes, my first army. I do it this way because then I can have a chance of winning round 3. I think that also shows not everything is preparation. It's also a strong suit of adaptation, thinking on the spot. So I think that's a really cool story, and also shows what it takes to really be a competitive Warhammer 40k player nowadays.
Yeah, there's multiple things to that. It's funny because I've never been kind of the meticulous over tester kind of person. It's more that I don't know, I'm passionate enough to play and talk about the game a lot, but I'm not very like insanely in detail and doing all the math. I'm more of a fields player. In Warhammer, and as I've grown older, I think I've become more of a unit crunchy kind of person and try to, but you can never like, unit crunch everything. It's gonna be based on like some kind of subconscious thinking of you haven't played enough to do that on a field anyways. That's probably the best bet as it is. And there was something else that I wanted to respond to that about, but I can't remember what you were saying. But
yeah, you can come back to it.
Sure.
Also want to say, in the way that we maybe heard here with Niklas, who is now for this year focusing a lot more on the single side, already securing the Golden Demon. With Arne, it's all team, but it's not.
I wish I had Golden Demon.
Golden ticket.
Oh, sorry, Golden ticket. It can translate into it, we can say.
Yeah, I'm taking as much time to bait my models as the Golden Demon winners, but it's not even close. It's like it's 1,000 kilometers on the other side of the
golden with winners here. Yeah, sorry. No, but and we have Arne, who's focusing on the team side, but not only on Team Germany. It's a lot more with the Reise Group and others. But how is it for you, Joel? I know that you play singles. I know you play teams, but a lot goes into Team Sweden. How would you describe how you see the Swedish scene right now, and how you see kind of how you enter into it to focus on it right now?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think I'm more like Arne. Like I never ever think about how something does in singles. Like when some people say that, like, oh, I think this list would probably be better in singles and blah blah, and I'm like, it didn't even cross my mind. But then again, I think I honestly think that singles and team events, when it comes to lists, are not that far apart. I think that's a bit overstated how some lists are like specifically tailored for teams. Like I don't think you can like catch out people in the pairings if they're not idiots on the other side of the table with like a specific kind of archetype, because I don't feel like the game is so much about bringing like 5 horde lists because the meta didn't, wasn't ready for it. It's more like we're gonna play the best armies that we think are the best, that have the best matrix against what we expect, and that is also most likely what the best singles, kind of lists are. Because I mean that's kind of the same thing. Like I'm gonna try to prepare. I'm gonna play the best, army in the game if I can. Which is probably the same thing as the thing that has the best matrix against most things in metagame. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. But then you obviously have to think about in teams how you pan out in the pairings. Like, am I gonna be a first defender? Can I be a first defender? Like, do I need a table? Am I gonna be down in the trenches, like in third or fourth takeout or whatever it may be? So I think that it differs on that part, but yeah, I would say I'm very much of a team player, I guess you could call it. I think also the Swedish kind of top level competitive scene only thinks in kind of WTC kind of way of thinking about the game. It's also we don't have a lot of people in Sweden. There's like 10.5 million, Finland has a similar problem. And
cut that in half.
We can't all be Germany. Anyways, and what that means is that for us, luckily, we have a very transparent, competitive scene. So we share a lot of information, what we think about things. Like we play games. We have Discord channel where there's like regular amounts of games that are being played, which are always streamed, so you can always go in and look, and we try to discuss things. It's not like people are playing for the singles scene where they like hide their tech that they're gonna show up with. They would prefer to get feedback on that tech instead and share it with the rest of the, and it's also kind of hard to get like gotcha'd in this world where with something completely new, because there's obviously the practical thing of actually having the right things, So yeah, I guess that's how it kind of looks like. Do you feel that it's similar in Finland?
Yeah, especially inside of the WTC ring. Of course, there's I think the core of players is something like 12 that is like focusing on the tournament side, but the whole like group of people is, I think, something like 25 at the moment that is collecting the data about everything, and they are sharing all the practice results and all that jazz. And the same thing that you have, that you can go watch the games whenever they are happening. So it's completely open in that regards, and yeah, I think. The Warhammer scene has evolved from the days of some scary stories that I hear where you are just trying to gotcha your opponents. I'm super lucky I never was part of that. And like with now on the Talvisota run where I was like every single shooting phase I'm telling you, remember I have the surge move in this phase, reminding my opponent. Yeah. So not getting gotchas, I think is really important, because that keeps people coming back to the tournaments so that they don't get these feel bad moments that they feel that it was fair game. Of course, you cannot play the game for your opponent. Like there was in my first game, I was playing against Deathwatch, and I felt that, remember, I have the surge move, and it's D6, and if I have 10 or more models left, I can re-roll the D6, and he's like, he had the... what is not the Talon Strike, but the Indomitor kill team, like set up to shoot the middle guys. And then he had the Watchmaster with his 10-man, the veteran Deathwatch dudes shooting it. And he's like, okay, this Watchmaster's group is going to shoot your boy group. I'm like, I stare at him a bit. I'm like, I'm looking at him like, did he just forget my last sentence that I have the surge move? And then I'm like, okay. Yeah, I'm like, okay, surge. And there was 2 inches away from my boys unit, there was a lonely infiltrator that I can just surge into. I'm like, I cannot play the game for you, man.
I want to bounce something off you, Arne, and this is kind of my just guesstimation of the like 40k competitive scene or whatever, but I feel like the game on the competitive level and the game as a whole has matured a lot in the last, 10 years or 5 years even. It's hard for me to say that since I haven't played that long, but I feel like the level of players, of how good people are at this game, has gone up a lot.
For sure.
And I feel like some of the players that maybe played WTC 5 years ago wouldn't hold a candle against some of the top nationalities today. I mean, there's some people that are still playing and are good, obviously. Don't get me wrong. I just feel like the general level of the game has gone up a lot. And I'm not sure, I mean, maybe it has to do with the internet and millennials that are, known to this kind of esports culture, that are finally growing up and having enough money to play the game, or I don't know. It could be a lot of things, but I feel like as the game has kind of turned up and become harder, and also the players has become better, I also feel like the games are much fairer and the transparency is much higher in a different way. It's not like, it kind of feels like poker in a way, where it like the game level has gone up so much that It's not gonna be the old guys that have their like special tells or like specific ways of playing the game. Now you just have to be so multifaceted as a player to compete.
It's really difficult to say because
Yeah.
I think the general level has definitely gone up. I think in the past it has always been this thing where like countries were kind of scrunging for 8 people who can like play at a like really good level. Whereas like, and where you sometimes had this thing of like, okay, you know, we have the 5 really good people and then 3 who we hope, you know. Whereas I feel like now it's much more of like it's like, I don't know, I think there must be like 30 really good people that like are playing in German tournaments.
Yeah.
And like that number is completely imaginary. Please no one tell me, no, there's actually way more. But like, you know. So I think the like you have way less of these games where someone's just like doesn't really know what their opponent is doing and then the opponent just does something crazy and runs them over. And a lot more of it is like both people know what's happening and then obviously like the skilled players still win because when it comes down to it, it's like how you use the army and how you like do everything down to the little details that really makes you good at 40k. And I guess some amount of just like creative thinking and finding a path with like your army against the opposing army, which I always think is like really cool. But yeah, I also feel like the game has gotten more. This is a take that I've had in the past year, but I feel like armies have gotten more similar. So in the past, it used to be like, you know, I remember like when I started playing 40k competitively, I was playing flyer spam Eldar versus Triptide all the time. And those armies have like nothing in common. And nowadays I feel like a lot of armies are like, you know, the game's far more balanced, but I keep thinking like, well, okay, this plays very similar to every other T3 army, and this plays very similar. It's like, okay, this is Possessed, and this is Custodians, and this is like, you know, Orc Knobs, and in the end it feels like a lot of units have just like, yeah, in the end it's a model on the table, and it can stand somewhere, and it can kill something, and it can die, and they all do the same thing. But
it's like when Bully Boys came out and we were kidding about we could just paint Custodes in green because they're the same army, you know.
Yeah, and like obviously this is more like from a if you squint and stand really far away from the table kind of thing. But I think it's happened to me where like I switch armies so much and I play whatever and against whatever, and I feel like a lot of it is just like general 40k has a certain style right now in 10th edition that you need to conform to, so every army conforms to it. You need to meet in the middle and fight on the markers. Otherwise, you're not playing the game.
But I also feel like I mean, since the game in 10th has become more streamlined in a way, the rules, I mean, it's easy to understand in a good way, I should say. It's kind of hard to be like ultra unique. Like you can't find a stratagem in 9th. I remember when I started playing, there was a stratagem in 9th in Custodes that was like. So there was like, okay, hold on. Listen. So there was like, I think there was like 4 different detachments, right, in Custodes. They all had like 2 different buffs each. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is that you had martial katas, and there was like 6 different katas with 2 stances each. You chose 3 of them face down, and you had to pick them in order. You could like rearrange them with Trajan. It was weird, right? So there was this stratagem where if you had a character that killed a character that's like already obscure, then you could pay a CP to get a buff from either of the 2 buffs from either detachment in Custodes or one of the stances, which is like 12 stances from the kata. So it's like, oh, here I have like 24 possibilities for this stratagem in this obscure way, and then there was 25 stratagems. So when you build the game like that, where it's impossible to understand for you and even worse for your opponent, it's easier to be unique, I think. I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard when you create games to have depth, but not add too much to complexity. And Warhammer's obviously suffered from that previously. So I see your point, but I think it's good for the game, honestly.
It probably is.
Yeah, I mean, we're so neck deep into this game, so we could probably like
I
that there
sometimes
was some
miss the
weird
second
stuff
page of
going on and
strategies.
obscure things. But I mean, when I'm playing as my friend that I started playing with 2.5 years ago, I don't think he would enjoy it as much. So
Yeah, that's fair.
Arne, you have played a bit longer, and at least in Finland, we have this consensus that COVID-19 and TTS have been the main drivers to like bump up the skill level of the players. Have you seen that as well? That because it was, I think, it was the first WTC after the COVID. There were people like I know the stories that the guys told that there were people that came to the WTC that had never felt the physical models before the WTC, and they had only played like hundreds and hundreds of TTS games. So I think that is one reason to like increase the skill level, because you can play so many games so fast, and the information is open for people to watch, and also the YouTube channels where you can watch people play. I think all that commits for the player base skill level going up like step by step from the past. But how do you see it?
Yes, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I wasn't one of those people who had never touched a physical model before WTC, but I also wasn't that far away from it, right? Like, I basically started playing, with TTS, and I just checked. I have 4,500 hours on TTS logged, in my Steam, and a lot of those were during the COVID years. I've played a lot less TTS since then. So yeah, there's definitely that's definitely one part of it. But yeah, um, no, I think I just agree with you.
Yeah.
Don't have much to add.
But speaking of the earlier
Yeah.
point, like, do you feel like, since you have so many more players in Germany, do you feel like it's transparent in the same way that we're talking about, like in Finland and
That
Sweden?
is
Like,
interesting.
so you could have,
I think
you said like you had at least like 30 or 35 good people that are like prospects or whatever you want to call them over there.
yeah. So this has been more of an issue in the past. I think we've gotten better at it. Because in the past, there's definitely been this separate clubs and communities in Germany that don't necessarily want to share information between each other, and that kind of interfering with the coming together as a national team and just doing the best we can as a national team. And I think we've kind of over time gotten better at this, and I think this year we're on a way better path. We're far more open with information, and both so this sounds strange to me now, but we barely did any. I'm trying to remember how many, but we did not do many actual tournaments as a team together as Team Germany before the previous WTC. And now this year we're basically planning to go to every single one of them and just make sure we're playing as an 8-man, practicing as an 8-man, scrimming as an 8-man, be it internally or with other nations, just kind of getting that team cohesion and just spending a bunch of time together as a team to get information sharing and just kind of people to chat to each other in general. But this has taken us far more work than maybe some other countries, just because in a lot of ways there's people who in Germany who are if you ask them what team they play for, they'll be here, if you ask me what team I play for, it might be Breaking Heads and then Team Germany. And I think it's shifted. I think if you ask me what team I play for, I'm definitely Team Germany. But this has been a thing over the last years where like it's grown together more. I think it's really good. But like 2 years ago, this was definitely an issue.
Understood. That's very interesting. And like when you speak about this part, I would say like in Sweden, and Joel, you can correct me, like Team Sweden is for sure like the ones who are part of that or are the prospects. That's like the highest level. So is like one unit. And other teams, those are more like your Reisegruppe, they are more like a fun gang and they hang together, but it's also more that they are locally coming teams from different cities together, I would say. But in Germany, do you have like a team scene that is pretty established, which can we say more like sports teams in the way that they are putting that team before the national team, or is that the shift that you're seeing right now?
I mean, there's both still, right? We have a team like a league, so to speak, where people are competing, but that one's like specifically meant for local teams. I'm not. It's like I'm technically on a team for that one, but I'm not participating very much with the local team right now. Just because, well, all my time is like taken up with national team things. But there's also like, I would just describe it as like big 40K clubs that aren't necessarily local to any specific area, but are more just like, Zugzwang, Kings of the Hill, Breaking Heads here, Gimps. There's like a bunch of these big kind of teams that have, a long history and like their own kind of, that are their own community. And it's, it used to be like I think there's also like this question for some players where like, there's some players like Niklas, for example, who are more into competing in singles. And for those people, the like internal level of like, we have like a ranking of an internal ranking of teams that is basically like based on the players of the teams and their highest scores, a bit like ITC team rankings, just for Germany, and contributing to that one, or like getting the top spot in the German national ranking and so on, are like maybe the main pursuits for some people. Not everyone is like all in on making national team. So
Gotcha. And Niklas, in Finland, like, do you have like teams and like some team league or so, or is it like the singles tournaments and then it's more team, which is more friends going together, and then WTC is like over it, or how would you describe that component? Because I think it's an interesting side right now in Warhammer 40K where singles really have established. There is a lot of tournaments. I think it's like over 2,000 tournament organizers around the world, where teams seems to be, thanks to what you described, guys, with the WTC, the teams is on the uprising. It's like the highest level of competition, and it seems to grow a bit. But how is it in Finland?
So I would say it differs if it's a team tournament or a singles tournament. In singles tournaments, it's usually like cities, or in major cities, there are usually two different clubs. So people are presenting their clubs or their cities in the singles tournaments most of the time. But in teams, it's usually then there are the WTC Team A, WTC Team B. We usually play only 5-man team events in Finland because it's super hard to get 8-man teams in here because we have even fewer people than in Sweden. So it's mostly 5-man teams. And then from outside of those WTC teams, it's usually leftover WTC players, or the ones that don't want to present the WTC teams in the 5-mans. They take their local group of friends or whatever and present their region or a group of friends. But it's not always that they are from the same area. They still usually want to build a good team, so they mix it from different cities anyway, just to have a team that can compete. Like now for the next week's team tournament, We have the WTC A and B team there, and then there's the team of myself. I'm from Lahti. We have one guy from Tampere, 2 guys from Jyväskylä, and 1 guy from Järvenpää. So it's like 4 from 4 different cities, just gathering the best possible team from group of friends, in a sense, to get some results, or at least challenge the WTC teams. And of course, that's like we don't think we can win them, but if we can draw them, we might. At that point, we of course can fight for a podium spot. But we'll see. But for in here, it's singles tournaments are the big ones. The teams are still growing, and hopefully they keep growing, because I know the WTC team wants better results than the Finland has gotten in the past couple of years. We used to be a name to fear, in a sense, at least a bit, I guess. We made some good results, but nowadays we have dropped quite far from that. We actually drew you guys in the Nordic Masters last year. Because
it's Sweden.
we drew Sweden in there. I played against Axel, and I think I had 9 to his 11 when he played Eldari, something like that. But yeah,
I was full rock and stone that tournament.
Yeah, but yeah. But like I told you, Christian, before, we need to have a group chat with Pete and get Assembly to host some bigger tournaments in here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I said it before, and before we go into kind of the end segment of this one, it's been a really interesting part. If you're listening into this live, please also ask some questions here to these gentlemen and champions of the Nordics from this weekend. But yes, Niklas, I think that what we're seeing here is that Warhammer 40k is growing rapidly, and it's been doing that quite for a long time. I think even before the COVID, but especially after the COVID, as we spoke about here, that it's 40k is larger than ever, and it's really amazing to see how the Finnish scene is growing. And we are, of course, always a bit jealous of the German scene with Arne. But my next part I wanted to talk about is maybe what Joel brought up with a bit of this, can we say, transition, because I do also recognize what Joel is speaking to, and also with these players who've been playing, couple of years here, it is somewhat of a generation shift. And I think Team Sweden have gone through it, can we say, quite a bit, having some old players, having some new players, but have changed their way. And it sounded on you, Arne, that Team Germany have started that, but maybe haven't fully, like, it's this year feels like a new year. Or how would you describe that part, Arne, where your team is in the transition leading up to WCC 2025?
It's interesting. I think we've been we've been on basically new guys for a while now. So, because like the old, like my WTC tricot has like 5 stars on it, but I don't know if anyone who's like playing with the team currently was really involved in any of those. I think that's like that's just kind of the past generation. Last year it was I think Caillou and David were like really like the historic Team Germany players who were involved in all those or many of those victories, who were still around. And this year I think we're basically all new guys. It's strange for me because like I only joined Team Germany 2023, so like this is all history for me that's been told to me. I wasn't around for it, but yeah.
No, but that's so interesting. And what you say, like Caillou, for example, he was actually on the Veizla stream that we broadcast on WTC, and being a legend like him, also returning for that one. But at the same time, Arne, it seems like Team Germany is stronger than it's been for quite some years. And it should be said, Team Germany is the one who I believe have won the most championships, or is the highest point taker in the WTC history. And it seems now, giving your strength in Pyra, and now here also with the Riser group in this Danish tournament, that German 40k is stronger than ever. And I guess we haven't talked about the meta of the Votan, but it feels like it's also Team Votan there in Germany.
Yeah, I think we do have Tim, who is just like the forerunner of Votan, but there's also like there's a bunch of people in Germany who have been like hopping on the Votan and performing really well with it. It is really not just him, though he's definitely, the most successful one of them all. And it's, I think other teams are like catching on. We can no longer say, haha, we're the only people who are understanding Votan. But, it's still, I still think we have a bit of an advantage of like how to pair with and against Votan, because we just play with and against them so much. I'm still sad about last edition Votan being gone. I like those way more. I played 9th Votan, and then the 10th came out, and I was like, this is not the army I painted. Why is this a completely different army now? But yeah.
Going over to you, Niklas, here. You said this year you're not participating in the WCT team. You have your golden ticket, not a golden demon yet, but you have your golden ticket at least. So that's a big part. But what's up next for you? You talked about this team tournament. Is that the next tournament, or there you have it? It's a very attractive one for sure. What's next for you here, leading up to the World Championship in Atlanta in November?
So yeah, next week I'm going for the Finnish Team Champs, I think is the name of the tournament. So definitely you will find that from the best course pairings if you want to follow that. And after that, it's actually quite quiet in the tournaments in Finland. We got 2 tournaments announced for May today. But besides from those, there haven't been any tournaments announced. So I'm kind of like, what? Don't we have anything to play in April? What is this? But it's also because I'm a father. I have kids, so it has always been a balance, like which tournaments I can go and which I can't. And those May tournaments are now on the dates that I cannot go. So now that I have the ticket, I'm like not that frustrated. I'm just like, okay, I can do something else then. So I think the ticket kind of took a lot of pressure out of my shoulders, that now I don't need to be so tempted to go to every single tournament. I can pick and choose and just like take the long preparations for the Worlds. And that's the first time for me in there, because last year we only got 1 ticket for that, and a year before that we also had only 1 ticket for that. So tickets have been rare in Finland, but now we already have 3 guys with tickets. So yeah, prepare and see what that's going to be. I think it's of course, I at least in my eyes, it's one of these once in a lifetime situations. I know it's going to be costing some amount of money to go there, but of course I want to see it through and do my best there, and we'll see. It's of course November is not November. No, what is it before November in English?
October.
Yeah, October. The data slate can change everything, so we'll see.
We're always at the mercy of the data slates for sure, and but it seems to look good for the green ones, at least for now.
Yeah, well, last year's WTC, I'm like, green tide, woo! And then data slate. Okay, what can I play now?
And maybe we can see you at Veizla Mega in Jönköping in June. Joel, actually, for you. Oh, sorry.
For the next Veizla Mega, make also 2-day singles tournament, and I will for sure be there.
So the Friday is actually a singles tournament, but we only run the 1 day.
The 5 round, and then I'll come.
All right, we will fix that hopefully. So Joel, what's up next for you when it comes to the general part? I know that the WTC, of course, is a big main focus for you, but what's this next for you, and how are you preparing up to Austria in August?
So there's a tournament next weekend that I'm going to, a singles event. It's kind of big. It's going to be the Fantasia Fnatic up in Umeå, north of Sweden. So we're going there as a singles tournament. And then I think we have a fair bit actually of singles tournaments coming up. I mean, teams has been growing in Sweden too, and there's a lot more team tournaments now than it used to be. But I think there's going to be a bunch of singles tournaments all the way until like WTC / September or whatever.
Yeah, I
So
think there's like
what I'm preparing for
3, 4, 5, 6, almost 100 plus single tournaments here in the next couple of months.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. But I mean, it doesn't really change the way I play the game. Like, I don't always play the same army in real life tournaments that I do when I just play the game and try to figure out the metagame. I'm kind of like Arne, where I try to understand what's going on, and I don't even like say that I pick up another army that I don't own or haven't played that much. I will of course play that a bunch. But if I'm playing like something that I really know, that I played at least like 20 games with, then I might. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I think it's even better for me to play other armies, honestly, I think it just gives you a better understanding of the metagame and like what those armies are trying to do, or at least try to face one of them. And then it's weird with like singles tournaments because it's like, I feel like Warhammer as a game, weirdly, if you compare it to a lot of other strategy games or any other game for that matter, it's like quite top heavy skill wise. Like, you know, the people that are the good players that you're gonna face, and you're probably gonna face them like 1 or 2 rounds in a tournament, which is 5 rounds. So the meta game, if you want to do well at a singles tournament, it's those people. I mean, it sounds not the most humble thing to say, but it's also the truth. And yeah, so it's weird in a way to test for the meta game for a singles event, because not everyone has the practical means to play whatever, even if they're versatile as players. So,
but should be said, in Sweden there are a lot, like yourself, almost popping up from nowhere and just going directly into Team Sweden. You were also golden ticket winner of 2023, so you were at the first attended event, the World Championship, and can really splash up the meta in home ground, and hopefully we have even more people like you yourself coming into this hobby. And it seems to be like that, because it takes, like all of the 3 of you have said, a lot, but you get really hooked into it.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm on this little podcast, right? So I must be some kind of all in if I'm spending 2 hours of my afternoon doing that.
100%, Joel. And for you, Arne, you said that you had almost every weekend booked with different tournaments. So what's next up for you, or what is the big thing before the WTC, if we can say like that?
Yeah, so actually, like this coming weekend, I'm actually like committing a big sin against my team and not joining Eurotrash Cup because it's my anniversary with my wife.
Congratulations.
So thank you. So we're gonna have like a really chill family weekend. But 2 weeks later is a big scrim. Then April has Alpine Cup, Leoben. I'm definitely playing the teams. I've already got my team. We were in a call discussing team comp right before this. And I'm not yet sure if I'll play the singles before, because that's in the week before the weekend. So I have to like figure out if I can actually make that work with work. May has the German Super Major. And I'm pretty sure somewhere in between there's another team event that I have to attend for Team Germany. Yes. May has the next Eurotrash Cup, and then the week after the German Super Major. So it's gonna be there's definitely like 2 or 3 things a month that are keeping me busy.
That's fantastic. And that's super major.
Up through WTC.
The super major, where is that located? And is that the single biggest event in Germany?
I believe so. So last year that was the biggest event in Germany. I think I don't know the exact player count. I think they had 500 slots or something,
Wow.
and it was like 400 and a bit players at the tournament. And this year I think it's projected to be the biggest, but they're definitely I mean Alpine Cup is technically not in Germany, but basically all the German teams go there. So that one's also like 400 players. We've got some fairly large tournaments going on now. It's no longer just a few years ago we had like, a few majors over 100 players. And now it's basically like if you just look at the majors, you're like, oh, that's like more than one a month.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So yeah.
Speaking of anniversary, makes me think of a story. It's kind of funny, if you may. So when I won my ticket to 2023, it was the like Swedish Nationals tournament, right? And we didn't know which date it was gonna be, and it came up that it was gonna be on Saturday, Sunday, and me and my wife had our wedding on Tuesdays, Wednesday, Thursday. And I was like, oh, this sucks. Like, I came back home and I'm like, oh, I can't go to nationals even though I qualified. It's like, oh, what do you mean? Like, well, I mean, it's 2 days before our wedding and we're going to have a 3-day wedding and there's like infinite things to do before that happens. And she, being the most understanding person ever, is like, oh, of course you're going to go. What are you talking about? You're so stupid. Of course you're going to go. And I'm like, okay, I didn't see that coming. So I won the event and then I qualified Worlds. And then much later, in like November, we were going to go to our honeymoon. And then Worlds was 2 days after we got back from our honeymoon. So, or 1 day after. So I had to like land and then leave immediately. It was also, no, sorry, it was before our honeymoon. So I came home and the next day we left for Thailand.
Oh, wow. Crazy. Yeah, we are fortunate having so understanding of families.
Get an understanding one. That's I guess the moral of the story.
Yes.
But it seems like you already have one of those understanding ones given your schedule.
By the way, I have a question regarding the tournaments in Sweden and in Germany. Like, are those how welcoming for foreigners? Like, can people play a game of Warhammer in English, like almost everyone, or?
I mean, in Sweden for sure.
I'm pretty sure about Sweden, but I wasn't sure about Germany. So
I'm pretty confident. Like, I think, all the big tournaments, you'll definitely be fine just going and speaking in English. It's very common, like, at least my generation of people in Germany, everyone speaks English. So, and Warhammer English is easier, right? Because we all know what the things are called. You just, worst case, you have to be a little imprecise. Yeah. But I'm sure you can. And I think actually for the Super Major in Braunschweig, so this is 24th of May, we're already like, I've been communicating with some people like from England, and we've kind of been running around getting some people to spice up the competition for that one. Because it's always fun when there's like, when there's more people, there should also be like more stronger people. So yeah. And this year, like last year, we had the Super Major and there were a lot of undefeateds because, well, 400 some players. So this year they're doing a top cut on the Monday after, like LVO. No, not LVO, like LGT does. Yeah. So 8 undefeateds go out of the tournament and then play it out on Monday.
Wow.
So that's going to be exciting.
Part about Warhammer, which doesn't really transcend to any other game, is that like it's very static. The best players, like if you have a 200-player tournament, could just be as hard as or even easier than a 32-player tournament. It's
Yeah,
weird.
I've been
Like,
at
that's
I've
not
been
the
at
case
some
in any other
tournaments
game
that
because
were
you play
like,
so many more rounds than any other game, and here you just have to win as you use less chances that you or risk, I guess you could call it, that you play one of the best players. So it's kind of crazy how that works.
yeah, I'm really happy that they're adding that top cut,
Yeah.
because it just like, you know, it makes sure these people meet. And I've definitely been to some, like, there was a GT in Berlin, and Berlin is kind of stacked. Um, and there was like a big tournament going on somewhere else in Germany. But then like a bunch of the best players from Berlin all ended up at that GT, and it was just like, you walk into the hall and you're like, crap, I know everyone here. I'm not gonna get a single easy round. So
Yeah, and I mean that for sure was the Grimrock that Joel played. I think it was like 5 Team Sweden players, and then the rest is probably like top 30 in Sweden or so out of those 36 that competed. And we could see there, Niklas, what you said in Finland in the tournament that you were winning or that you won, that top 10 was all from the WTC team. So that just shows how stacked some of these tournaments really can be. But of course, we all are very jealous of you, Arne, having those super majors with almost 500 players. That's what we're hoping for in the future here in the Nordics too, and that we can start traveling in between. We'll jump in a bit into some questions. We haven't got too many, but we had one here for Joel. When you look at Warhammer 40k armies, do you see the same type of archetypes as you do in Magic the Gathering with like aggro, control, combo, etc., or do you see it just completely different?
I think that they are the same in a way, but I think in both games they are oversimplifications of what's actually going on. I think it's hard to get lost in playing a pushy, aggressive army or whatever, and just assuming that you will have a good matchup against all the archetypes of another type. And that's not the truth in this game. Like, if you're a push army, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a good matchup against Necrons if you have, like, shooting Necrons if you have it against Tau. So it's like an oversimplification that I don't think do the game justice. I don't think you should view the game as that. It's more of a matrix, like how many points do you think you're gonna take against this or that, and blah blah blah. I think the way you can like archetype stuff or like trying to put things in different boxes is basically like what kind of army is playing like melee or range shooting, and if you're dependent on a table, like whether it should be closed or open, like a lot of terrain or a little bit of terrain, and which kind of armies plays like close games versus like trying to play volatile games. I think those are the kind of and they all kind of taper into the way you think about teams in general. I think so. I think there's ways that you can build archetypes in Warhammer and oversimplify things. Like there's in Magic, but sometimes I think it shines a false light onto what's actually going on.
I have a question there though. So I feel like, so I've played a bunch of Magic in the past, obviously not like you, but enough to definitely think in those kind of colors. And I've felt like 40k definitely has this thing where some armies have like their own plan and they kind of present problems, and some armies feel like they try to have all the answers. And I think I've exactly, and that kind of like goes into like, I feel like that sometimes can feel like mid-range and control, where like I feel like if you're playing Chaos Knights, your thing is, hey, I have this really annoying problem that I'm presenting you with, and let's see if you have the answers to deal with it. Whereas I feel like a lot of armies are trying to have all the answers. And I've definitely found myself in the past, like I gravitate towards trying to present problems. I'd much rather present my opponent with like a really hard problem than try to have answers to everything.
Yeah, and I hear you, and I think those things can be similar in both games, and in like an open meta game, and this is true for Magic as it is for Warhammer, being proactive is always better, like because it's very hard to like trying to cater to every issue there is that you might or may not face. So some amount of proactivity you need to kind of do, and it's hard in a way to translate that in Warhammer, because like being proactive, I think in Warhammer is either like you like stat check your opponent and like that's one way to do it, or you like try to score 100 points and you see if your opponent can stop you, basically, without like killing things. But I feel like the game more and more becomes more mid-range, if you want to use an archetype that comes from Magic. Because the game, I mean, you want to be able to score primary, you want to be able to deny your opponent's primary, you want to be able to have enough units to screen, you want to have enough units that you can do actions, like you need... Maybe you need something for the backline, but probably not as much as you used to be, because, you know... And all of those things kind of like plays into this formula of making a good, well-balanced army. So I think it becomes more mid-range, in a way, if you want to call it that. But I agree that there's like proactive and reactive things, and I guess most of the cases when you're trying to be proactive, you kind of need better terrain or like specific setups to make that happen or whatever. But I think I think there's very few armies that are proactive in the way that like you present a problem and if your opponent can solve it, you're dead. Like there's always like layers of fallback plans, and you can actually... There's very few armies that are playing like that are good, that are playing like 4 mids or whatever. Like that you're just dead because you can't kill everything. You know. So it's a tricky question in a way, but it is similar to Magic in the way that in Magic also this archetypes was a way of oversimplifying what something was actually trying to do. Like you could put it in different boxes to try to understand it quicker. But behind that kind of oversimplifications, there's actually a giant rock, paper, scissors, but with 20 different rocks, and you know.
And in the end, everything's mid-range if you look at it through a certain lens, right? Like,
or
at least every good deck is mid-range if you look at it the right way. But yeah, I do feel like 10th is mid-range hell. It's like 8th was vintage, and now we're in like standard, and we're just mid-ranging at each other.
It depends on what you mean with hell or not, and like it's interesting because I think the better you are, the more you're trying to cater towards being able to respond to what your opponent's doing. Because whenever you try to respond to what your opponent's doing, you need to like time it correctly and have it set up in the right way and etc. So you don't want to have something that you're completely drawing blanks towards. But whenever you do that, some parts of your army is going to be worse against other type of armies, right? But you can like kind of circumvent that by just being a better player, and I think that's what kind of happens a lot in the scene, if you will.
But I think that it's interesting in the way that, you know, it's so much more Warhammer 40k players today, and it's growing by the minute. We see also, you know, the efforts that the 3 of you are doing going in to be able to win the tournament like you did last weekend. But I also see a bit like some matches seems to be, okay, I can't win this one, so I'm going to put everything on the line and bet on that I'm going first, and that's my win condition. But it's also interesting what you said, Joel, before, that previous editions maybe have been more complicated and so many different depths into the armies, where today it's more like 20 armies are relevant. Maybe then it was like 3 top armies and you had to learn to play against those. Now it's so much. So maybe, Arne, you're right, that it is mid-level hell that you described. And it's not only armies, it's actually like the detachments. Like, you know, with the orcs we see maybe potentially 3 different detachments doing really strong here, or with Joel going with a shield host that some would say maybe is not the strongest, showing that maybe that is still the best, even with this new detachment that just came in this balance patch. One more question that we had is how do you believe in faction specialists, or do you believe in generalists? And I think starting with you, Niklas, here, you did say that your play style is that you go in to really take a big sweep and win big. And maybe that's like a play style, but you also maybe are a faction specialist, given that you like the green.
Can you guys hear? Because I think I lost my sound.
Oh, no. Yeah,
no,
I
now
can
I can hear you. Yeah, okay, I can hear you now.
I repeat it again, Niklas. I said that we got a question here if you believe in faction specialists or if you believe in generalists. And you said that you really go in to try to dominate the game and take a lot of points. And also you are for sure an orc specialist. But do you see faction specialists or do you like generalists, or how do you see that being?
I think Arne and Joel can answer regarding the teams better than I can, but for sure teams have specialists and then they have generalists. But I would myself spread that a bit more broad, that it's not necessarily a faction specialist, but it's like melee specialists, and that you have the how do you call it, that can shoot and fight, and then the shooting army specialists. So I think that's maybe better spread than just faction specialists, because I play mostly orcs. I also have custodes. I'm really slowly working with my space wolves. Maybe I get world leader one day, but like I have always said to everyone that I don't want to shoot. That's for pussies. I only want to go smack people to the face. So yeah, that's what I want to do. So I would generalize myself that I play melee. That's the thing I want to do. So yeah.
that seems to suit your playing style for sure. Arne, what is your view on that with generalists, faction specialists? Do you also agree with these type of free roles maybe a player can have?
It's strange. I think it just depends on the faction. I'm definitely a generalist, but last 2 WTCs I played T-Suns, and I was definitely a T-Suns faction specialist. Because I had like an unreasonable amount of games on T-Suns. And yeah, like there's definitely power to both, right? You can't be too inflexible, otherwise, you know, the meta shifts out from under you, and now you're like stuck playing a bad faction. But if there's a faction that has that like high skill cap thing going for it, then it's worth investing that much time. So like T-Suns last year, or like before that I played Harlequins, and both felt like factions where like it was worth investing the time to like really become a specialist at it. Yeah, but I still see myself as a generalist. I try to play everything, and I learn how to play against things by playing those things and seeing what sucks when it happens to me, and then trying to make that happen to other people. So, yeah.
And Joel, what is your view on this whole topic? I know it's probably our own show of 3 hours, to be honest, but trying to say a little bit about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, so unfortunately there's multiple things to this. And one thing is I feel more like a generalist personally. I think it gives you a lot, even with the simpler armies actually, to play them a lot and knowing it inside and out. Because then you have a lot more time to understand what your opponent's doing, especially if you're a little unfamiliar with what's going on and how to adapt to it. So it does give a lot. Arne has a good point where it's tough when the metagame shifts. I think as older the edition gets, the more forgiving it is to be an army specialist. When the metagame becomes more and more flat, I think GW is doing a fantastic job with leader leads, and you can really tell that like there's a lot more better players that are spending time on making those good. Because I don't think there's been a single data lead that has made the game worse. They've all made it better, or more fair, more balanced. So it gives it more to those people. But then again, I mean, when it comes to teams, like some national, teams have like 30 good players, and you can like oh, Astra is good for this for this WTC. Let's pick him like a month before. And some other nationalities can't do that, and then you kind of have to be a generalist in a way. And then the last part is like some people just spend a lot more fucking time, man. I mean, some people are like quadruple faction specialists, and some people are single faction specialists. I think there's a lot of that also when it comes to some of the best players and then like a tier below, if you will.
I think that's a really good point, Joel, in the way that you love to say faction specialist, and maybe AdMech is what's come to mind in that way. But I think, like you say, Joel, that maybe faction specialist nowadays is that it's free for factions that you are faction specialist, not like, only with one.
I think I'm the best Custodes player probably in Sweden, but I don't think I'm a faction specialist as a player. And so it kind of takes off that, that's not how the game works anymore. So yeah.
Fantastic. This show has been running a bit longer than I had anticipated, but it's been more than a pleasure to have the 3 Nordic champions from last weekend here. But I do want to round out and just getting, if you have any final words, maybe we don't need to start another big conversation, but if it's some that was on your mind also in this one, please, you can state it also. So why not start with you, Niklas? Anything you want to shout out, anything you want to say as a round out?
No, just thanks for having me, and keep growing the awesome game of Warhammer 40k in the respective countries.
Yeah, and go ends, not only Team Finland.
Oh yeah, you can ditch the NIP fanatics and all that shit. Ends is the true colors.
100%. What about you, Arne? Any last shout-outs or words you want to say?
Yeah, sure. I mean, check us out at Breaking Heads. We're on YouTube, and on our website. We do content. We filmed a tier list like yesterday, and we do coaching. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me here.
Thank you for coming, Arne. And Joel, any last words or shout-outs that you want to do?
Absolutely. Shout out to Grimdark, the tournament I won. They're going to have their final tournament the 25th. I think they're going to stop hosting after that. They kind of brought me into this entire tournament sphere. And so big props to them and the organizers, Oscar and the guys. It meant a lot to me and coming into this community. And shout out to my wife that has been like cleaning because we have guests tomorrow. And I've been sitting here talking and I don't know, pimping with magnets. So shout out to her. Good job.
Shout out for sure to all the wives and partners around the world. Without them, boys with toys wouldn't be really possible. So I guess that's a good closing. Thank you so much for this great show for tonight, and good luck in the upcoming tournaments.